In this video, I'm going to start by laying out the location of the side plate, and from that I'm going to find the location for the pins that are going to hold the lock together. From this point on, it's really important that I keep the front and back cover for the lock always facing each other in the same orientation. So for that, I've placed a couple of chisel cuts on the inside face of each cover. That way I'll always know at a glance which way the covers go together. They're fairly close, but if you flip them around, you will see slight irregularities, and that will give you problems when you're doing the final assembly for the lock. The side plate for the lock is usually set in slightly from the edge, so I have a set of dividers set up with a Sharpie, and I'm going to scribe around the faces of the covers to define that line. I'm going to be marking the inside face of the bottom cover and the outside face of the top cover. Those are where I need to see the lines to be able to figure out the components for the lock and to do the assembly. And as you can see, I'm just using a roll of electrical tape to raise the blank off the table so it makes it easier to scribe around the outside edge. Once I have that line drawn in, I'm going to move the compass over to reflect the inside edge of the side plate, and then I'll scribe that line onto the covers. And I'm just marking this line along the edges where I'm going to be installing the pins. Once all that's marked out on the top plate, I'm just going to sketch in the locations for the pins. The pins won't be totally symmetrical because of the way the lock mechanism needs to be laid out, so I'm putting the bottom two fairly close, and then I'm just putting the top two where they need to be. You have a lot of leeway here. The location of the pins really don't need to be that precise, and you'll see in a moment how the location of the pins relates to the side plate. And then I'm going to scribe in the thickness of the bar that I'm using for the pins. And that's going to allow me to put a center punch in the correct location for the pins, as well as figure out the diameter of the drill that I need. Here I have the two plates clamped together with a pair of vice grips, and I've drilled the first hole. I sized the hole to fit a nail that I can use to keep the plates aligned. And I'm also going to be using these nails as a reference when I'm figuring out the location of the pins for the side plate. So as I drill a hole, I'm going to put a nail in that hole and keep working my way around until I have the whole thing drilled out. And if all went well, the nails should all be leaning in the same direction when you have the piece assembled. If you do have nails going off in different directions, you will have problems assembling the lock. So this is how the side plate fits into the lock, and you can see how the pin is going to hold all of this together. Now I'm ready to start shaping the side plate. I'm going to draw the template that I need to bend the side plate on the inside face of the back plate. As you can see, the top right hand corner of the side plate needs to bend around that pin in order to fit around the shackle, and the top left hand corner of the lock is where the opening is for the free end of the shackle. I'm going to be leaving these ends long, and I'll trim them to size later on. Bending the side plate isn't too complicated. I'm just going to use this old monkey wrench to give me the narrow jaws that I need to work around the shape. And then it's just a matter of bending it a little bit, comparing it to the pattern, and working your way around until everything fits. So here's the side plate pretty much ready to be assembled onto the lock, but I'm not going to be doing that. In fact, this side plate is probably going to be the last thing that I assemble on this lock. One of the reasons that I chose to shape this part now is because I need to know that it's going to conform to the lines that I have drawn on the back plate, because I'm going to be using those lines to lay out the actual mechanism for the lock. So if there was a problem, I was going to need to adjust things before assembling the mechanism. But the main reason I'm not attaching it to the lock now is simply because it'll just get in the way of all the work that I need to do on the inside of that lock. With the side plate pinned in place, I would no longer be able to clamp it in a vise or do any filing to make some minor adjustments to the inside mechanism of the lock. So I have it all laid out, I know it's going to fit, and it's just going to be much easier to attach it when I'm ready to close up the lock and I know that the lock is working well and there's no problems with it. So this piece is just going to get set aside, and you probably won't see it again until I'm ready to close up the lock for the last time. Hi, I'm Dennis, and thanks for watching. As most of you know, for the past few years I've been producing YouTube videos on a part-time basis. I am now looking to turn that hobby into a full-time job, and for that I really need your help. A small monthly contribution from a really small number of viewers will generate the income that I need to achieve that goal. So if you're interested in the work that I'm doing and you want to lend your support, please click on the Patreon icon at the bottom of the screen. Thank you. We'll see you next time.